Welcome back, Cardinals fans. It is Turnbuckle Bros back with another edition of Cardinals Corner. As always, Matt Hewitt and Steve Mutsu here with Turnbuckle Bros, and we have with us today Cardinals expert, the official scorer of the Norfolk Tides, the Baltimore Orioles AAA team, Mike Baron Von Holtzclaw is with us today. And finally, guys, baseball is back. We are a week into the season. All that stuff behind us with the lockout is what I said, behind us. We've got a week of ball in. We're stoked to be here and talk about it. And so we're going to try to do this once a week, kind of a week-by-week recap basis this year for 2022. A lot to unpack, a lot to talk about this year. So let's get going with it right away. The Cards have played, as of this recording right now, 5 games, and they're 3-2. They're currently second in the NL Central, and so far so good. In my opinion, I've seen a lot of good things. Let's get some guys that know about baseball a lot more than me to talk about it. So, Baron, Cards 3-2. What do you like? What don't you like? What's going on with it so far, man?
Well, it's early. It's you don't want to get too high on what's great. You don't want to get too down, on what's going wrong. Obviously, the offense looks good. The starting pitching has struggled some. Wainwright looked great on opening day, but then guys have been struggling to get through 3 and 4 innings. Fortunately, the bullpen has looked fantastic. Bullpen has looked really good. Jake Woodford had a 3-inning shutout appearance. One thing that I have really liked seeing, 3 guys who are new to the team this year, Nick Whitgren, Aaron Brooks, Drew Van Hagen, guys who were signed and they weren't sexy signings, they weren't impact signings, but anytime you could add bullpen depth, anytime you can add those arms to the bullpen who can get in there and get the job done, it helps. They may not put up big stats, they may not be big stars, but teams win and lose an awful lot of games based on the depth of the bullpen. Those 3 guys have pitched real well in this first week, and I like seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a carryover from last year, and even with some new faces, I think that's exciting for Cardinals fans because, quite frankly, the bullpen looked pretty good in 2021 for the most part of the year. Yeah. And now we got some new guys in there kind of picking up where we left off. Because let's face it, some of the Cardinals starters are kind of getting up there in age a little bit. Obviously, we all know, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this as the episode goes along. This is Adam Wainwright's final season, and, he's 41 years old now, and, he's going to go out there, whether he's hurt or what or not, you can, bet your sweet ass that Wainwright is going to be there to compete and want to throw as many innings as possible all year, but he's going to need guys to come in after 5 or 6, after he's, thrown a few innings, maybe sooner. And so those guys that you mentioned, Mike, are going to be key. Michaelis, he's not necessarily old. He's been around a little while too. So guys like that, Hicks, this is his first time being a starter. He's coming back from these injuries, the Tommy John, everything else. That's an exciting addition to the rotation. Steve, let me ask you about that. I know you're a big Jordan Hicks guy. How do you think he'll fare as a starter this year?
I think he's just an opener for the time being, and he'll be back in the bullpen sooner or later. But all of our pitchers are pitch-to-contact guys. They're going to get blown up sometimes. But right now we got this giant extended bullpen with all these arms, so we can handle it. When they cut the roster back, it might be a bigger deal. But right now there's so many good guys. I think we'll be all right with the starting pitching. The giant bullpen and the starters. I think we can make it till Jack comes back.
That's the key. I mean, when Flaherty comes back, it changes everything. It pushes Wainwright from your number 1 to your number 2. It pushes, everybody gets better if Flaherty can come back healthy and be the ace. But I'm not sure what the timeline is on that.
I'm not either. I was going to ask you guys, what is the
news? The news is positive. We can't say for sure. Probably still be a month, but once he comes back, then Jordan Hicks goes to the bullpen. He's the long guy. It looks pretty good. I mean, if you have Jack Flaherty, the pitching staff looks pretty good.
Sure.
I mean, the rotation does.
And the thing with Wainwright, and I think we saw this in his first 2 starts, Waino is not blowing people away with his stuff anymore. He's a very, very smart pitcher. And location is going to be everything for him. Hitting spots is everything for him. Opening day, he was hitting spots, and he threw 6 scoreless innings. He looked fantastic. In his second start, we saw if he's just a little off, if his pitches, I think he said after the game, if his pitches are thigh high, he's in trouble. He works better at the knee level. And if you're not throwing like Jordan Hicks, if you're not throwing that gas, that makes all the difference in the world, is just a couple of inches. And so Wainwright doesn't have a lot of margin for error.
And that same thing can be said for
pitcher.
All the Cardinal starters, not named Jack Flaherty, they're kind of all the same, where they're all pitch to contact guys. None of them are blowing nobody away. None of those guys.
Well, baseball definitely is a game of inches.
I always tell this story going back to when I was a sports writer covering the Norfolk Tides, and they had a young starting pitcher who I think named Jason Isringhausen. And he was a starter back then. And there's a whole long story that I'll spare you, but this particular game, this was his last year in the minors, and they couldn't touch him. He was just blowing people away. And his last start before before the Mets called him up, he got lit up. He just got lit up. And we asked him afterward, was this just one of those days where you didn't have your best stuff? And he said, no, I had great stuff. I mean, it was as good as I've thrown all year. And we said, well, what happened? And he said, I'll tell you what happened. You can throw the ball 110 miles an hour, but if every pitch is dick high over the middle of the plate, they're going to time it and they're going to hit it. And, it's funny, and Isringhausen isn't a Rhodes Scholar, but that is a perfect description of pitching. We get all excited about the radar gun, but no matter how hard you're throwing, if you're throwing to a professional hitter and you're laying it over the middle of the plate, they're going to time it and they're going to hit it. And you're better having a guy with moderate speed, but he can hit spots and he can move it around and he can change speeds. And I have always remembered that and think that's the perfect description of pitching.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Well, now that we've touched on the pitching early on a little bit, let's talk about this offense. Looking good. We've had a couple of, excuse me, Cards are 3-2, but some of those victories so far, we've scored a lot of runs. The offense is alive. A lot of guys are hitting the ball well and hitting the ball early. One of my favorite moments in a long time was Albert hitting that home run the other night, number 680. I mean, how sweet was that?
That was
for
great.
Cardinals fans.
Well, it's great.
After 11 years, Albert comes back. They're home at Busch and smacks one almost, not quite, to Big Mac Land. So many home runs he's hit there. But Barrett, the Cardinals offense, so far so good, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what, the home run by Albert obviously was magic. Another one that was really a big deal to me was seeing Tyler O'Neill hit that one on opening day. O'Neill he's such a talented player. I mean, he is such a full package. And he had a great, great breakout season last year. He was the player that we've been hoping he could be. And an awful lot of the time, when a guy has that kind of breakout season, he regresses the next year. It doesn't mean that the breakout season was a fluke or anything, but a lot of times with a breakout season, it's a matter of a whole lot of things going right with your health and with your swing and everything else. And the next year, maybe a few things even out. I don't know. I really want to see him follow up and have another great year like that. And seeing him just really on top of it from opening day, that was really good.
Yeah, agreed. And of course that, really hot streak that he had came kind of later in the season last year. So let's hope that he kind of keeps that going so far. And, of course, it's kind of coming from everywhere. We've already seen the Gold Glove defense of Tommy Edman in a big way already. Steve, me and Steve have had talks about Tommy Edman for, how's he been with us? A good 3-4 years now. Oh, I hate him. He's terrible. Oh, he's great. I love him. Oh, I hate him. He's terrible.
I didn't like him leading off. It wasn't that I hate him. But terrible.
Tommy Edman proved last year that first he belongs, and he proved that, my goodness, he has got a glove on the field. He's looking great there too. Then, of course, the Gold Glove of all Gold Gloves as far as infielders are, in my opinion, in the whole National League, Otto is playing with a purpose already. Sure. He looks great. Just all around. Steve, anything that you've seen so far?
Well, I love the lineup, the way they're doing it. I like it's a lot better than Tommy Edman hitting leadoff. Did you guys think that had something to do with Mike Schilt leaving?
Could
Tommy
be.
Edman leading off.
It might be. I think it was a larger philosophical thing, but that might have been part of it.
I like the lineup and what he's doing and using the way he's using people, and everything looks pretty good. And Tommy Edman, like you said, is off to a great start, but so is Nolan Gorman, and something has to give. Something has to give. I don't know which one is going to have to, unless somebody gets hurt or whatever, but something has to give. You can get something good for either one of those guys.
I don't think they necessarily need to be looking at this point to move one of them, but Gorman is right now on a tear, and we know how good he can be.
He's not the one I want to be moved.
I'm not saying that, but Gorman had 5 hits on Wednesday. 5 hits, and he has had 4 homers in his last 4 games at AAA in Memphis.
I know he's ready to come up.
So, I'd love to see him. I'd love to see both of them on the roster for a while, and let Edman can play several different positions. Gorman can play second. He can DH. I'd like to see both of them getting some playing time. And if maybe when we get closer to the trade deadline and we kind of figure out where we want to see both of them play, but I think it's a luxury having both of them. And
I agree.
I'm fine. I think there's room for both of them on the major league roster.
I agree with that also, but I think there's something to the sell and high thing. Like Tommy Edman won a Gold Glove last year, but he didn't hit good last year at all. That could happen again this year where he doesn't hit and he ends up on the bench, and Nolan Gorman's playing second, and you didn't utilize this asset like you should have while you had the chance right now.
Yeah, I can see that, but I could also see I think Edman is still on a pretty affordable contract.
He is. It wouldn't be about that. It's just
having a guy like that on the bench is terrific because you're right. He was miscast in the leadoff role, but he's a spark plug. He was among the league leaders in doubles. He was among the league leaders in stolen bases. He's a terrific defender. He's a hard worker. He's a guy, if somebody gets hurt, you could plug him in half the field.
Great speed on the base paths.
So you can plug him in the outfield, but why would you do that? And you could plug him in at third or whatever, but probably not. But you really can't. We can replace him so easily on the roster with people at AAA. You know what I mean? And right now, it's high time.
If the time comes and they can get an impact player for him, I'm okay with that.
There was that right time. That's what I'm just saying.
I don't want to move him just to be moving him.
This poses 2 questions for me. This brings up 2 questions for me, though, all of a sudden, because here I am. I'm just going to spitball something kind of crazy, but I also want to talk about Gorman just a little bit before we move on. The guy that I could see moving or maybe being out of the picture here, we haven't mentioned his name yet, but Paul Dion. Can Gorman or Edman move to short? No,
Gorman certainly can't. I don't think you want Gorman to. Could Edman? I don't know.
Edman could. I guess he could. But
I mean, instinctively, are you hearing that? Instinctively, I think a Gold Glove second baseman could move and be an adequate shortstop. And
in theory,
he's a hard worker.
He did play some short last year. I mean, he has played short in the minors too. So he might have been drafted as a shortstop.
Oh, what am I thinking?
Guys drafted as shortstops.
Gorman's a second baseman, though, right?
Well,
Now he is.
Gorman is a third baseman who has been
That's right.
moved
That's
to
what I was.
second.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Louisville, actually, the only time in like 50 years, because of the weird pandemic scheduling last year, Louisville Memphis actually played in Norfolk. So I got to see the Cardinals prospects, and I got to, just a couple of games, but I saw Gorman play second base, and I was watching that very closely, and he looked pretty good. I mean, he, didn't look like a Gold Glover, but if you wouldn't have looked at him and said, "Oh, there's a guy learning the position," he moved well. He was developing some good instincts.
He's going to be up soon, and he's going to have to play somewhere.
That was going to be my next question. It's not a matter of if Gorman comes up this year. What I was going to ask you guys is when, because there's already buzz and there's already talk about it. When do you think we see him come up this year, Steve, if you had to take a guess?
Within a month, for sure. As soon as that eligibility day, what's that day?
I forget what it is. I don't know if that's the game they're playing or not, but yeah, I mean, he'll be up before June.
There it is. Well, we've talked a little bit about the team. Like I said, as of this recording, Cards are 3-2 first week. Offense looking good. Pitching, yeah, I'd probably say 50-50, going there. It's only been 5 games, folks, so there's a lot of baseball left to play. But what a story it was just a couple of weeks ago before the season started. The Cardinals re-signed Albert Pujols to the delight of Cardinals fans everywhere. Kind of saw it coming a little bit, but they pay him $2.5 million to come back and play his final season with his bros, Molina and Wainwright. What a story it is, regardless of the outcome at the end of the season. The fans are going to be coming in droves just to see these guys play. Albert is back, the farewell tour of three of the greatest Cardinals to ever live. Yeah. What does that mean to us? Me personally, being a diehard Cardinals fan for life, it's amazing, and it's good for the organization. Attendance is going to be off the charts again, like it always is every year, but especially this one. People are going to come far and wide. It's going to generate a lot of revenue for the team. So many jerseys and everything else that's going to happen. That $2.5 million that they're paying Albert this year, they might have already gotten it back. They might have already gotten it back just on, merch sales, ticket sales. I'm sure the ticket prices are going to go up for a lot of these, Cubs series, a lot of stuff already. What does it mean to you, Baron? You are a Wainwright fan, true and true. So, I mean, it's truly the end of an era.
It is, and I like that. Knock wood, they're all 3 playing well. We're not watching guys playing out the string. When they signed Albert, it's funny. My best friend told me after when they signed Albert, she said, normally when the Cardinals sign somebody, I'm the one who's saying, "Hey, no, this is going to work out," and she's the one saying, "Boy, I don't think this is. I'm not sure about this." And when they signed Albert, she was just bouncing off the walls, and I was the one saying, "God, there's so many ways that this could go wrong." And I want it to go right. And what it comes down to is, if he hits like he did for the Dodgers last year, it is awesome. It's magic. Watching him ride off into the sunset, hopefully lead us to a division title. If he hits like he did in Anaheim, it's going to be really sad because it's, the last couple of years we watched Matt Carpenter, and I'm not comparing Carpenter to Albert, but we watched Matt Carpenter sit on the bench and saying, "God, how do you use this guy? You can't cut him, but how do you use him?" Yeah. And if Albert's hitting like he did in Anaheim the last couple of years, and if we've got Nolan Gorman coming up, if we've got Juan Yepez coming up, there's not a lot of ways to use Albert, but you can't cut him. It's his farewell tour. And so, I'm hoping. I'm hopeful that everything. I'm hoping that he will hit well enough that everything goes well. And Wainwright just seems ageless. Molina he's still yachty.
Iron
He
Man.
still needs to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And watching the two of them together, watching Wainwright pitching to Molina, it's one of my favorite things I've ever seen as a baseball fan. I'm older than you guys. I saw Gibson and Brock when they weren't at their peak, but they were still real good. And that was, Bob Gibson will be my favorite player until the day I die. It's just amazing. And it was really great watching those two guys play. And now, being able to watch their whole careers, Wainwright pitching to Molina, that is so much of my experience as a Cardinals fan.
Yeah, and Albert coming into us, playing his last year, it's the absolute perfect scenario because the DH just got instated into the National League. How perfect is it that we sign Albert and he gets to DH for us? He's definitely not going to play every single game, but he's probably going to play a whole lot more than he would if there wasn't a DH.
Because with Goldschmidt at first base, I don't think they sign him if there's no DH.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They probably wouldn't have signed him if there wasn't a lockout, and we wouldn't have had this extra big roster and have the space that you can have a guy that can only hit left-handers and can't run and can't play the field. You have this luxury while you have this big roster. But when is it? And sometime I think in May or whatever, the roster has to come back down. When that does, that's when this Albert Pujols thing will really get a test. Like, what are we going to do then? Maybe like a injury will happen until September when the rosters come back up again, something like that. Something like that could happen. That's what I said was going to happen. Like the very first day I heard it, because that's what makes sense to me. Like, we got this extra space. We got this guy. We can get to, and then the heel starts hurting right around. This is very rude of me. I shouldn't be saying this, but you see where I'm going here. And then when the rosters open back up, here he comes back in September.
Sure.
Did the Ripper just apologize for being rude? That might be the first time he's ever done that in his 52 years on this earth.
Don't you guys think that makes pretty good sense?
It does. I mean,
the flip side to it is also other guys are going to get injured. Injuries are the X factor in any baseball season. You don't know who's going to get hurt. Cal Ripken played every game for 15 years, but all it would take is one bad slide into second base, and he's out for a month. So
here I go being Mr. Bad Guy, but there's not a player on the Cardinals starting lineup that if they got hurt, Albert Pujols would be the backup for him. He's just not going to be the guy.
If Goldschmidt got hurt, Albert could play first base and bat against lefties.
He could, but probably Nolan Gorman would play first base, or Yepes or somebody else. I mean, I don't think they would do that. I don't. The new outfielder? I don't think we've mentioned him yet. Can he play first too?
Oh, yeah, he can.
We haven't even mentioned him yet.
Dickerson. Cory Dickerson.
Yeah, Cory Dickerson.
Yeah.
I kept wanting to say Curtis Granderson, but I wouldn't let the words come out of my mouth because I knew it was wrong, but they wanted to come so bad.
Curtis Granderson and Cory Dickerson probably couldn't be any different from each other, Steve. So good job on that one there, heel.
See, I keep wanting to say Corey Patterson.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then I catch myself. So.
All right. So,
I just think Albert's a little further down the depth chart than most people would like to believe.
But that's the thing. They signed him in the Cardinals with the DH and with a low contract. They're able to put him in a position to succeed. They're not going to be asking him to do more than he's capable of doing. And that's the key for a guy at his age, and he has slowed down. And, if they were trying to play him every day, I don't think he would be very good. But if you could maximize putting him in a position to succeed, he's going to be prepared. He's going to put in the work.
I totally agree with that. And that's why I like when we got the room for him, perfect. But when we don't, time for the heel to flare up.
Did you see him trying to steal third the other night?
I didn't get to see that.
I will tell you this, and I say this with all due respect to the man. If we staged a foot race among the three of us and Albert, I'm not sure who would win.
But
he was trying to steal third against Milwaukee last night, and I don't know why he was.
He's always been the worst base runner in the league every year, every team he's ever been on. That's the truth.
He was trying.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
Horrible base runner. He was
trying to steal third, and I don't know if they gave him the sign or if he was doing it on his own, but he knew instinctively, I need to get a good jump if I'm going to steal third. And he took off while the pitcher was still holding the ball. And the pitcher just stepped off and threw to third. And he's, God bless him, right? But he's like lumbering like Herman Munster in the third base.
I beg to differ a bit about Albert's base running because Albert was notorious for stealing bases for a long time, and it wasn't because of his
outs.
It wasn't because of his speed either. It was because of he was doing it at the right times. He was doing it because of his baseball IQ.
Well, I disagree with that. I don't think he was doing it at the right time. He was just doing it all the time. He was getting out a lot, and he was safe sometimes too. And you're just remembering when he was safe. But that guy, do you remember when I was playing ball and wouldn't listen to the coaches and I just ran constantly? That's what he did. I'm like, he's doing the same thing I used to do. He won't listen. He just keeps running and getting out all the time. His teammates would yell at him if he wasn't Albert Pujols. I'm so bad. Let me say something positive about the team because I've been shitting on them this whole time for no reason. I'm a big fan.
Well, I'm going to now. Back to what Mike said a little bit ago. Albert comes back to Busch and went 3 for 4 with a huge homer, some big hits. If we see that out of Albert once a week for the rest of the season, I'm super happy with that. The guy can still hit. He's still a presence at the plate. Pitchers still fear the guy. He's still Albert Pujols. He still has 680 home runs. I think he makes an impact on the team this year. Speaking of making an impact as a Cardinal, we're going to do something for the first time today. We are going to give away the Barron's Claw Hold Award for the Player of the Week, Baron von Holtzclaw, who wins the Claw Hold Award for Week 1 of the Cardinals 2022 season.
Well, I'll tell you, after opening day, Adam Wainwright had a leg up, but his second outing wasn't quite there, and I think it's a pretty obvious answer this week. I think the claw hold goes to Nolan Arenado.
Absolutely. And Arenado, ironically enough, was the National League Player of the Week. He had something like 3 homers, 9 RBIs in the first couple of games.
Yeah, he had a game where he was 4 for 4 with 3 doubles. That was the game when he didn't have a home run. He was 4 for 4 with 3 doubles.
4 for 4 with 3 doubles is about as good as it gets in baseball.
He's a terrific hitter, and obviously he's an amazing glove at third base. And we actually, at the Norfolk Tides games, they ask a trivia question every night, both on the radio broadcast and in the stands. And they were they opened the season against the White Sox affiliate. And so the questions were White Sox related. And the question the one night was, since 2014, Jose Abreu for the White Sox is second in all of Major League Baseball in runs batted in. Who has the most runs batted in Major League Baseball since 2014? And the answer is Nolan Arenado.
Wow. See, not a lot of people would realize that about him. But that is true. He is a run-generating, run-saving player. The guy is a special guy, and he is the first ever recipient of the Barron's Claw Hold Award. The Baron is going to pick the Player of the Week. There it is, the claw. Love it. All right, so before we wrap it up,
let me say something good about the Cardinals. I got to say something good about them.
Just cut me off in my intro to the last segment.
Okay, go ahead, finish your intro. Sorry.
Wait. I want to hear something good about.
You already ruined it. Okay, you already ruined it, Steve. Do it again.
I think every member of the rotation is good enough to be a 12 to 15 game winner. Every one of them. I think everybody in the lineup could end up in the All-Star game. I like the way Kisner's getting to play when, and I think they're splitting the time. I like what the manager's doing pretty much every game he's doing it. I think the future's looking bright. Maybe I think they're going to come up with a crazy Albert Pujols injury in the middle to sit him. But, hey, and maybe they should turn Tommy Edman into a good pitcher or something. But I also think the team is really good. And I think they'll win a lot of games. Probably the wild card, maybe even the divisions. Milwaukee's a little scary, but who knows?
Yeah. The makeup of this roster is really good. Health.
I agree.
So there's my good thing. I said something good.
The health of the pitching staff is awfully important, but I think every team says that.
Absolutely. All right. Let's give a quick recap of week 2, as I tried to do, but Steve had to throw in some positivity. So thanks a lot, Ripper, for saying something positive
like
about the team you've loved your whole life.
I was feeling like the Grinch over here. My heart was 3 sizes.
You really weren't saying anything that bad, but sometimes that devil's advocate needs to be said. That's what the game of baseball is, unfortunately, sometimes. So let's take a look at it. Let's pull it up on the screen here. Week 2 looking like so. Actually, Steve, why don't you give us a live update? The Cards are actually playing the Brewers right now. It is a 8:11 Central Time here on April 15th.
6-0 Cardinals.
6-0 Cardinals currently. Of course, we'll talk about this game and the other games coming up here. So we had a 5-1 loss against Milwaukee last night. And so, of course, we're playing Milwaukee right now. Looks like the tides have turned in this game. So we're playing Milwaukee in a 4-game series, which will conclude this Sunday. Then we have the Marlins. Then we have Cincinnati. Real quick, Barron, how do you see these next series going? Is there anything that Cardinals fans should pay attention to coming up here in this next couple series for week 2 of this season?
Well, it's the first road trip for the team, and Milwaukee is loaded with pitching.
Yes.
The Marlins are an interesting team to me because I don't think Miami is a very good team, but they got a lot of good young pitching arms. And so they're one of those teams, kind of a cliche, but they're one of those teams that they're not very good, but you don't necessarily look forward to playing them because if their pitchers are all pitching well at the same time, they're dangerous just because they've got those young arms, led by Sandy Alcantara, who we remember.
Yeah.
The Reds aren't very good. And that's
no, they're not.
they're just not. And that is the kind of team early in the season you got to take advantage when you play them.
Exactly.
When you play a weak team, you want to go in there. You want to go in there looking for a sweep.
Yeah.
Scoring some runs too in that park.
Yeah.
Anytime the Cardinals beat the Reds, I'm a happy camper because over the years, I'd probably say over the course of the last 10 years, the Reds have probably become my least favorite team in the Central. Maybe even the last 15 years.
Why is that?
Just because of all the animosity that is generated over the years between these two teams.
Brandon Phillips thing.
Yeah,
the Brandon Phillips thing, the Johnny Cueto thing. There's been some.
Did Nick Castellanos just stand over somebody last year? About him?
Yeah. Yeah, the Castellanos thing. So, there's been a lot of bad blood between the Reds and the Cards over the years, and those games get pretty physical at times. And so I've just kind of grown to hate the Reds. Like, I actually dislike the Reds more than I do the Cubs. I've said that for years. So anytime the Cards put a beat down on the Reds, I'm happy. So there it is, you guys. That is the Week 1 recap. Please do like us, hit that subscribe button. We don't say that enough on the show. We need to do that more. Let's grow it out there. We've got the man, the Baron, giving you some of the greatest in-depth analysis on baseball, throwing the claw out there. So thanks again for being with us, Baron. We're going to come back next week and do Week 2. Of course, this is Turnbuckle Bros at Turnbuckle Bros. Like the channel. Give us a comment. Tell us what to talk about next week. Check out the other videos. Check out Diamond Mind Online and MagicSports.com. Play some fantasy baseball with us. Check out our videos. Learn how to play the game. So for Steve and for Mike, this is Matt saying adios.
Turnbuckle brothers, man.